All right, Brian, we're live.
Right.
Sweet. So
Happy
yeah,
Friday.
happy Friday. Yeah, everyone go out and buy some Dogecoin. Gotta, gotta pump that up. Because Elon says, all right. So today we're going to talk about how the cloud can help rapidly troubleshooting network issues. So, we've worked on something the last couple weeks that would have been really tough to resolve if you weren't using cloud networking, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. And the video is kind of freezing up a little bit, so I might
It looks
turn
good
my
on my. It
camera.
looks good on my end. You look good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um. Yeah. So yeah, we have an internal tool built in
Yeah.
that allows our customers to, if they have questions about cloud or they're troubleshooting cloud, um, they can ask questions through a chat. But more importantly, they can ask us to. They can provide a passcode to let us remote in.
Yeah.
And it creates like a fast feedback loop in regards to kind of the communication to us. But the nice thing of that is all the chat sessions that happen within that interface, um, they everybody sees it within the company, meaning customer service, field applications engineers, product line management, and then our engineering, our software and hardware engineering group.
Yep.
So it creates a great like feedback loop in regards to, hey, if there's a particular issue or there's a design issue, or is there a new feature that we should be adding to this solution. So it creates this, a great it's great for Ingenious and the customers, so we get a better understanding of what's happening.
Yeah, so I mean, on these cloud network, dashboards, basically you're on the cloud website, you have an issue, there's like a little chat box, basically, Ruckus does it the same way Ingenious does, there's a little chat box. You can start a case there, and then, you can invite them into your cloud for, a certain amount of time to like look at your configuration and what's going on, and it ties everything back to your cloud instance, so whoever's working on that is gonna be able to see what everyone else has done before them, right? Anyone else that
Yeah.
has done anything. Whereas before, if let's say you had a managed system, with a local controller, on-premise controller, it could take months to troubleshoot a problem and get a fix into the firmware that would fix this issue, right? Because they're going to ask, first thing that they're going to ask for is like packet captures. A lot of times the end user won't know how to do that,
Right.
and that puts a stop to it right there, and causes a lot of frustration. And also the regular troubleshooting system, they're gonna have to manually input all the case details,
Yeah.
and make sure everything's right, and be able to contact the end user and all this stuff, which makes things, just slows things down. With the cloud, you can go in and see the problem right away, maybe fix it right away, or escalate it up the chain if you maybe have to do a firmware fix, like in this case.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we recently ran into a situation like that. So yeah, the biggest thing is like creating these tickets and updating the tickets every time you have a call with the customer, and then making sure that you're going through like the proper troubleshooting steps to kind of figure things out.
Yeah.
And so you're trying to experience this without seeing anything, and you're kind of guessing a little bit
Yeah.
of what's happening. And there's end users that they thought they did something and they didn't do it, and so you gotta you're constantly trying to figure things out, right? So like with cloud, you can actually see what's happening and what's going on. Like within our cloud, you can see logs, you can see client activity, you can see configuration changes. There's a lot of things that you can see, but this also gives our engineering staff the ability to also remote in and look at different things and logs. So that's really, really helpful. In this particular,
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Oh no, I was just gonna. I think we're gonna say the same thing, but in this case, like we're talking about these new multi-gig switches, which are like new standards that are coming out, and they have to be compatible with the oldest Ethernet standards that were released like 20 years ago, right? They all have to work together, and there's gonna be some hiccups in there that would need to be smoothed out along the way, probably.
Yeah, exactly. So like our 10 gigabit switches and our multi-gig switches have, we launched these not too long ago, but it has the newest chip in it. It has the newest release of a particular chip, and so you can test to a particular point, but then it goes out into the field, and then it's tested among a lot of different devices that we might not even imagine. So then you start to see if there's incompatibility issues and things like that. You start to see more and more pop up. The beauty of cloud is you can get that, you can receive that information faster and resolve issues faster.
Right.
So that's something that we've experienced. I know you and I have experienced that firsthand, and so we've experienced that in other cases, right? So it allows us to kind of adapt to our customer base a lot faster and release things a lot faster. Either it be a feature or a bug fix. So it's been a really important kind of tool for us and for our customers. So
right, because let's talk about the actual fix process. So with the cloud, the engineers look at it, they determine what the problem is. They can issue a firmware fix just for that cloud instance, right? Just for that one switch.
Exactly.
That they're going to push out there where you may not want to be emailing, firmware files off to your customers because they may put it on the wrong switch or the wrong product and cause a problem, right? Or put it out there in the wild where other people are trying to install it. So when the engineers are in the cloud, they can just say, okay, I'm just going to put this hot fix on this one switch. And this will fix this issue. Then we'll roll it up into a general release later.
Right. Yeah. Currently, right now in cloud, you can do a beta firmware, stable firmware, and previous stable.
Yep.
And beta it's been tested internally and tested with a small set of customers, right?
Right.
And then it's released to beta. And then so it gives everybody the ability to use beta because it could be a new feature that they've been waiting for or what they want. And then after a period of time where it's been tested with a lot of customers, it then moves to a stable, and then then it's downloadable for everybody or anybody that has that setting set to stable.
Right.
Will take on that new firmware. And if even in stable, if there is a bug found within stable, you can actually go back to the previous stable version of the firmware. So that's really nice. And the reason I say that is because we can even take it a step further. And in this particular case where there was an incompatibility issue, we could apply a special firmware to a specific switch, just like you were saying, to test this to see if it works out or not.
Yeah.
And the customer can test it, and we can confirm that it works. And then we can test it over a period of time and then move it into a beta status. And then from beta to stable to previous stable.
So, and if that switch was managed on premise, then it would probably take months and months to fix something like that. That feedback loop would be way slower. Who knows if the customer would even do the packet capture? I guess so they could still engineering could remotely do it, but as far as developing that firmware, getting it on there, it's going to take a lot longer.
It's going to take a lot longer. Yeah, it's extremely faster than an on-premise kind of
managed
setup.
switch. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot faster. I mean, we still, in some situations, you actually have to go out and buy the product to test it internally if you don't have the product. So in our case, it was a particular product that we never worked with, but apparently it's used in editing and broadcasting. So we would normally have to go out and buy it,
mm-hmm. Right,
and then test it in a lab. And then that takes some time. You're buying the product, you bring it in, you have to set it up. You have to set it up exactly the way that the customer has it set up to see. You have to prove that it does fail within your setting.
Right.
And when you prove that it fails, then you have to then that's when you have to do like packet captures and understand what the actual issue is.
Yeah.
So there's a long process there.
Right. And we're talking.
Go
ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, that takes weeks.
Right. If at all, if you're willing to buy the product at all, because you don't know how many customers this is going to affect, or, we're talking about Ethernet. Every new multi-gig or 10 gig Ethernet port has to still support 10 gigabit half duplex devices that came out 20 years ago, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So and that's a big ask, because these new obviously the protocols are all compatible, but maybe the physical interface is a little bit different or something.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and you bring up a good point. The one thing that you have to look at as a company is, okay, there's one particular issue that's having a problem. How many of our customers really use something like this? Is this like a one-off, and are we spending a lot of time and money trying to resolve an issue that somebody else won't use again?
Right.
But with cloud, it makes it much easier and more cost effective to go through that process.
Yeah. The engineers can work on it at any time of the day, wherever they are in the world. So it makes it makes it way easier. All right. So talking about new cloud features, what about this new cloud switch profile that's coming out for Genius?
Yeah, so we have a new feature coming out the 19th, so next week, which is called it's switch profiles. Basically, allows you to create a profile for a switch, and then you can apply that profile to as many switches as you want. So it's a new feature that we've been working with a number of different customers that, larger MSPs and things like that, where you have thousands of switches.
Yeah.
And you need to take a profile and apply that profile to those 1,000 switches. It's supposed to launch, or will launch 5/19, so it's next week.
So they'll be able to configure basically like VLANs, port settings, things like that, and instead of just applying it to one switch and doing them all, they can do this all at once through the cloud using that profile.
Yeah, currently within cloud you can do what we call as group settings, group configurations, where it gives you some kind of like high level things that you can turn on and turn off. But with switch profile, you can get really specific, like on the ports, like port 2 on all these switches. It will be attached to an access point, so that port needs to be tagged because it has VLAN X on it. So you'll be able to apply this profile to as many switches as you want. So you can get really specific to the port.
Nice. So is it going to have anything like as far as naming conventions go? Or are you going to be able to specify like in that profile
name basically?
Yeah. Well, in the profile, like, are you going to so when you add a new switch to the cloud, it gives it like a basic name, right? And just naming these things, if you had 1,000 switches, takes a lot of work. So
I'm going through that right now. Actually.
Yeah. Is there a way to maybe set like a macro to like rename them all, basically?
That I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know for sure. I would have to, I'll know probably just before the launch of it. But I'm not sure.
Is there like a CSV file import that you could do so to name the switches? No.
No.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay. Yeah, that may be useful. Like if you had a serial number to serial number to name, you could generate that thing, and I guess it would save time. I don't know. I mean, if you have to go down and copy all the serial numbers, I think like a macro that would automatically you'd put it in the switch profile and say, okay, these are gonna all be called like University 1 through X or whatever.
Exactly.
Something like that. So instead of just like a generic office switch or whatever it calls it now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually going through something similar to that where, you have hundreds of access points. They're located in different buildings, and the access point is the first part of the name is the building, and then it's, 01, 02, zero
Yeah.
03, and so on. So having something like that would be nice to be able to import into. So we're starting to do more exporting of information, but we will start to do more importing of info as well.
Yeah, even somehow, I guess I know you have the mapping, as part of the cloud. So, like, if you had different floors set up and you placed the APs on the floor, maybe the name could automatically take that part of the name could be that floor or building location automatically.
Sounds like a feature request.
Yeah, well, no, that I'm just thinking out loud that would probably be really useful because those maps are only so useful because you look at them and all the APs are named the same basically, but if you were able to drill down and actually use it after you use the map, it renames the AP to fit that location where you put it. That makes sense. That's maybe something.
Yeah, currently you can upload the map and you can name the APs and you can place them where they're at on the map.
Yeah,
that's the way you typically do it.
Right. And
that using a map is very important because it helps us understand when we do this remote troubleshooting. It allows it. We can visualize where these access points are placed.
Right.
And how it gives us a good idea of like, okay, this one's placed between like 3 walls, or you might need another access point in this area because you don't have enough coverage area. Because we can look at the heat map, and looking at the heat map will give us RSSI, so that helps out as well.
Yeah, I mean the mapping, although it takes more time, everyone's always in a hurry, but for sure, especially in this case, like you say with the cloud, it really makes sense to use that map. Like with an on-premise system, like I don't think a lot of people use that map. Like like the Ruckus Zone Director has a map in there. I mean, I don't think a lot of people use it because only one person is looking at the interface at a time.
That is when we're troubleshooting. That's one of the first things that maybe not the first thing we look at, but that's one of the things that we pull up. We pull up topology view.
Yeah. And
we pull up the map. Topology view gives us an idea of like how these devices are connected. If there's other devices on the network that could be causing the problem.
Yeah.
And then we look at a map of like AP placement. Typically like in a sticky client issue or there's no connectivity in a particular area. We look at the map to understand. Okay. Maybe we need another AP there.
Yeah.
I mean, you can kind of figure those things out without a map, but it's just easier with a map.
Yeah, and I mean the topology view is great too. The way it uses the LLDP to show even non-ingenious devices on your topology map. That's something I haven't really seen before. So that's great. It even shows like my IP phone, my router, Microtech router, whatever. It shows them all in there. And what switch port they're all connected to. So that makes troubleshooting way easier remotely too.
Yeah, I've used that in combination of the kind of like our switches. You can see like the ports on the switch and what speeds they negotiate at, and I can also see what's connected to what. I can understand that our ECW 230 will link at 2.5 gigabit versus the 120 will link at a gigabit. I can see, I can understand that and see what's connected to what. So I can see, our switches, what type of switch it is a multi-gig, 10 gig, single gig switch that's connected to the device. So there's a lot of things that you can start to kind of put together and understand without asking a lot of questions what's going on the network.
Yeah, and I talked about this before. I used that topology view to quickly solve a problem because somebody called in and said that they had a gigabit internet connection. They were getting like only 100 meg, and I was able to look at that topology and see where their router was connected and see that it was only linked at 100 meg instead of a gigabit. And there's your problem right there. It was the router, exactly. The cable going to the router. So that again, another case of rapid troubleshooting with the cloud. All right, Brian. Anything else you want to talk about this week? How's your commute going with the electric Volkswagen?
So we brought up electric cars last time.
Yeah.
So now I'm thinking you guys are wishing you had electric cars right
now.
now.
Yeah. I mean, I've been putting gas in those like plastic grocery store bags. Like a double bag them, put in the trunk. Because you don't want to run out.
New
So
fuel cell.
yeah,
Fuel
yeah,
cell.
yeah. No, yeah. I mean, I'm sure this made a lot of people think about electric cars when there's like threat of pipeline shutdown or whatever this week. So
Yeah.
but I mean, the grid could be shut down too. That'd be way worse, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
I think at least you can transport gasoline more easily, in times of trouble, I guess. But yeah, it definitely made everybody think about electric cars, I think.
Yeah, but we go through rolling blackouts, right? I don't know if you guys go through that process, but in LA we go through that process of the power's going to be out for X, which is not fun, which is just annoying.
Yeah, I mean, LA is actually like the worst area for electric cars, right? Because a lot of people don't have access to a garage to plug in. And if you don't have that, then you're not going to want an electric car because you're not going to want to drive out to the charging station and wait for it to charge, right? That's only like for road trips. So, out here in the country, it's great. You can, I can just leave it in my driveway and plug it in if I want. But then again, we don't really need it either. Like, there's plenty of gas stations around here. But no, it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. All right, let's end this one, and remember to like and subscribe for more help with Wi-Fi.
Yeah, and make sure you ask questions.
Make sure to ask more questions next time.